Hey folks, and welcome to Traveler Tuesday. I'm Ardwulf, your host. We are today going through the relatively recent released in print Traveler Mongoose Second Edition book, Aliens of Charted Space Volume 3. Picked this up at Origins, and now we are going to go through it. So without further ado, let us begin. So we have in PDF, this is a 298-page book. The hardcover is very handsome. It's easier for me to do this kind of video going through it in PDF, however. So we do have a table of contents in the beginning, and I do feel like Mongoose could go a little ways towards improving this because we've got there all the sections are just sections, regardless of whether they're like main sections like individual species, or whether they are subsections like the parts of the Darian history, for example. So they could improve this. That is an incredibly minor complaint. However, credits here, Classic Traveler, of course, by Mark Miller. Author of this book is Darren Bulmer, and we get four of the species of charted space, the official Traveler universe, in here. We get the Darians, which have a long history in Traveler since they are in the Spinward Marches. We get the Geoni, which also have been around for a long time, and they're a fairly interesting minor human species. We get the Dolphins, the Orca, and the Bwaps. The Dolphins and Orca are not super duper prominent, but you can, in fact, now play Dolphin and Orca Travelers. And the Bwaps are kind of like an imperial mainstay. They are natural bureaucrats and have a huge presence in the bureaucracy of the Third Imperium. So let's get started here. All right, we have an introduction, which is basically a brief rundown of all five races that make a presence in the book. Let's zoom in just a little bit. Now we have the Darians. Now this is a different visual presentation of Darians than we typically get. So the Darians are a minor human race. They were left on their planet, which is in the Spinward Marches by the ancients roughly 300,000 years ago. Traditionally, they have been portrayed as very fair and very elf-like. And although we still get a little elfiness in the graphics and art in here, they're not quite as elfy as we have seen them in the past. Now they were also they were kind of mingled with Soleimani refugees at one point in the distant past. They achieved very high technology, very dynamic simulation until they blew up their own sun. So massive solar flares rather than like supernova. What that weapon is called the Star Trigger, and their civilization has still not quite recovered. But nevertheless, one might find some of the highest technology available in charted space comes from the Darians. So looking at, why does page down not want to work? Let's zoom out just a little bit more. All right, so we get some stuff on Darian society. Their homeworld is actually quite interesting. Homeworld and history is actually quite interesting too. Here is some stuff on the Darian government of the Darian Confederation. They are a relatively small, by interstellar standards, but nevertheless very important state in the Spinward Marches. Do we get a map? We do. This is the Darian subsector, and most of the worlds in this subsector are part of the Darian Confederation. Couple may be run by the Sword Worlds, a traditional rival. That doesn't actually appear to be the case. I think the opposite is the case, where there's been some encroachment by the Darians into Sword World space, but that may actually be post-classic era and or Rebellion or New Era. So that may kind of be beyond where the timeline is kind of at with these Mongoose Traveler Second Edition products. Darian law, social services. Illustrations are good where they appear. It doesn't appear to be incredibly richly illustrated, but that's fine by me. There's a lot of material to present here. The first presentation of the Darians was actually in Classic Traveler. There was one of the original Alien modules was on the Darians, and I think it was the only minor race, quote unquote minor race. Inside the Traveler universe, you're a minor race if you did not independently develop jump drive. But there are some wrinkles to that definition that the most in the know of Traveler diehards will know that that complicates that description quite a bit. And the fact is that major races are major races because they're major races, rather than because it's kind of like the definition of a dialect. A dialect, a language, is a dialect with an army and navy, right? It's that kind of definition. So it's largely a political definition. Dress, art, and architecture, recreation, business, the military The Darian military is organized in a fairly interesting way as well. They have this thing called the Special Arm, which maintains the secret of the Star Trigger. That is the device that they accidentally blew up their sun with. And they appear to have recovered that technology and are able to use it. Talk about deterrent. Language, Aslan in the Confederation. There is an Aslan presence here too. If you want to hear more about Aslan, go watch the other video on Aliens of Charted Space Volume 1. Humanity, meaning non-Darian humans in the Confederation. There are some. The original Soleimani settlers kind of interbred with the Darians, so there's like a Soleimani strain going on there. So they're not like a distinct ethnic group anymore. That was like a couple thousand years ago, as I recall. Here's the big section on Darian history. And it talks about their origins having been deposited there, and the gardens which were built for them by the ancients, the exploration of the different basins, the Golden Age, which is where they hit TL 16 at least, developed the Star Trigger, blew their sun up, and that is the ultimate disaster, the Maris, where intense solar flares scoured the Darian homeworld. And their interstellar civilization at that time was very young and quite fragile, as it turned out. So the colonies more or less did not survive, although they have eventually recovered. We've got some stuff about their relations with the Sword Worlds and the Jordani and the Third Imperium. They are considered a very important, in the Spinward Marches, Imperial ally. Here is the secret of the Star Trigger. I'm not going to spoil you on that because there is a spoiler buried in there. At least I assume there is. I blew past it myself, but I know what the spoiler is. Here's the timeline. As usual, it's actually like 2.5 pages. That's actually a lot. Here are the rules for generating Darian travelers. As you can see, they get -1 strength, +1 dex, -1 endurance, +1 intelligence, and +1 education because they have that. There are titles here for Darians of high social standing. There are interesting new unique careers or unique variants of the standard careers for the most part for the Darians. So these are Darian variants of agent, a standard career, entertainer, envoy, which is kind of diplomat, advocate, diplomat, or observer are the assignments available there. The guard, this is the kind of ground forces of the Darian Confederation. Darian merchants, militia, planetary armed forces, navy, this is the Darian Confederation's navy, scholar, and the special arm. So, and this is, kind of a combination. Think of this as like DARPA, right? Combined with the Marines. That's kind of what they are. If you put DARPA and the Marines together, they are the cutting edge of Darian military science. They do have very small numbers of military forces as well. Moving on, we have the worker, the backbone of the Confederation. The Wanderer, which should be kind of considered adjacent to the Drifter career from the main game. Here's Central Supply Darian, so we've got all their gear. And let's see what the tech level on this stuff is. 10, 14, 9, 14, 12. So we do have special arm battle dress at TL 16, so that's got to be kind of badass. Battle dress modifications, survival gear, electronics, robots. They appear not to like robots particularly. TL 16 computers, medical supplies, lizard juice. Really? I don't know what lizard juice is. Okay. Oh, that I can see why that's expensive. All right, personal augmentation. No augments are available in the Confederation, so they don't like that either. Here are melee weapons, which look funky, and these Gauss weapons, which look really, really heavy. Neural rifles. This is a TL 17 item. Only a few dozen exist, issued to special arm elite forces on a mission-by-mission basis. So there's that. Here are Darian vehicles, including the weird and possibly impractical-looking monocycle, grav bikes, military grav bikes, sphere tanks. So presumably this is a grav tank, and this is a TL 13 item. Darian High Guard, which is going to give us info on Darian ships. Here's a TL 13 railed courier. The Gog Tramp Trader, also at TL 13. Here's a TL 13 Far Trader. The Yang Rapid Response Rescue Vessel, TL-13. Here's the Lend Covert Espionage Scout, which is not the prettiest ship in the fleet, that's for sure, but it's TL-15, which is pretty high. Remember that normally interstellar civilization tops out at TL-15. Exceptions to that exist. Um, Obviously, the ancients are the big exception to that, but like actual TL-16 or higher than 15 societies, there's not very many of them. There is one world, Vincennes, in the Third Imperium, that is on the just hit TL-16 as well. Okay, here's a TL-15 system defense boat. Here's a passenger liner. And we get deck plans in the new two-dimensional style, which I think everybody prefers. Although I don't know how practical these deck plans are unless you print this out and blow it up like a lot. Here's the Geony. So the Geony are also a minor human race. And the interesting thing about them is that they believe themselves to be the ancients. And they are damn convinced of it. No one else is convinced, however. And there is ample reason to believe the other people. But to the Geony, it has become a cultural thing that they, in fact, are the ancients. These folks are in, do we get a subsector map? I forget what sector they're in, but they're not in the Spinward Marches. They are, their home world is Shawani. I forget what sector that is in. And I don't see it jumping out at me. But they're in like the main body of the Imperium, not on the frontier. And they've been part of the Imperium, all the Imperiums, for some time. Technical mastery. They place great value on technology and technological skill. Traditional values and breaking with traditional values. Dress, art, and architecture. They are shorter than many human species, or subspecies, as the case may be. The military, language. Here's the Geony history. This is where you're going to get into the details of what's going on with their history with the ancients. They were placed on their world by the ancients. And here's the Lairnians, a minor race native to the subterranean environment of a cold satellite orbiting a gas giant in the Shoki subsector. Okay, so this is the looks like the Massilia sector. I've never seen these folks before, but you do get rules for character creation. They get endurance +2, intelligence -2, education -2. Talking about the Silean contact with the Geony. Recent history, we get a big timeline here. Here's the rules for Geony travelers: strength +2, dex -1, endurance +2, and social -1. Because they're kind of considered dopes in a way for this whole charade where they are the ancients. Yeah, right. That's ridiculous. You'd ask the Geony, and they take it very seriously. Role-playing Geony, you get some hints on that. You get some info on careers. It looks like there's 3 Geony-specific careers. So the Adrat embraces the ancients' heritage by training upcoming youth, trading Geony technology to others, or looking for artifacts left by your ancestors. That's an interesting career choice. The Geony Self-Defense Army and the Geony Self-Defense Navy. That's interesting. Here's some Central Supply Catalog stuff. So we get some clothing, some battle dress. Where does their battle dress top out? Looks like they don't have it. The Lernians have battle dress at TL-14, and they're scary looking folks. Here are robots. The Geony like robots. So there's a whole bunch of robots in here. So if you're gonna run like a Geony-centered campaign, you probably do want to have the Robots Handbook, I would say. You notice that the maintenance spot looks an awful lot like the maintenance spots from, or whatever they were, from Silent Running. I'm sure that's intentional. Here's a giant scythe-looking thing, which is fun-looking. A variety of projectile weapons, vehicles, including tanks, including a light tank, which is TL-15, and a super heavy tank, which is also TL-15. So this is actually kind of neat. I'd like to take a closer look at these. Geony High Guards. Fueling shuttles, boarding pods. These are small craft, of course. Here's a scout, which looks like a 200-ton scout. So as scouts go, it's pretty big. And they do have kind of a cool, unique look to them, where they're all kind of boxy. I actually like that. Here's a torpedo boat, TL-15. So pretty much cutting edge. It's a pretty big ship too, 2,000 tons. Yeah, it's bigger than a boat, man. It's so in Traveler, if it's called a boat, that normally implies that it does not have jump drive. So this looks like their version of a very large system defense boat. Here's a fast destroyer. If it's got a jump drive, it's a ship. If it doesn't, it's a boat. Here are the dolphins. So the dolphins are uplifted species. They have been uplifted at least twice in their history, according to this. There's more info here. This book covers dolphins uplifted by the Solomani. Most of the material found in this chapter are also suitable for dolphins uplifted by the ancients. That's interesting, and I'm very much looking forward to reading this material for that reason. These are dolphins. These are intelligent dolphins that can now communicate, and there is technology that allows them to interact with technology, right? So that because they don't have hands. Dolphin travelers, we get rules for this: strength +4, endurance +2, social -4. They mature and age more rapidly than humans. Okay, I don't know that I knew that. Here's a dolphin civilian, dolphin military. Those are the only two careers we get that are unique to dolphins, or versions of careers that are unique to dolphins. Here's Central Supply Catalog. Personal protections. They got stealth suits, which is actually kind of cool, I have to say. Survival gear. We're going to see the walker suit, early versions of travel suits. The travel suit is like the suit with the robot arms and stuff so that they can actually manipulate stuff. And they have grav belts too, which is also kind of cool. Here's augments for dolphins. If you get you lose a tail, you can get a cyber tail for your dolphin, which is kind of awesome. Here are dolphin weapons, dolphin vehicles. Presumably, there are submersibles, actually. Submersible tanks, heavily armored and armed submarine. That's actually kind of cool. Here are dolphin starships. This is the Deep Dive Scout Courier is a modified standard type S Scout Courier. So it's a 100-ton ship. Looks like it's TL2. Presumably the thing's filled with internal layout and fittings have been altered with dolphin psychology and comfort in mind. So does that mean it's filled with water? The Dream Song Laboratory ship. I'm real curious to kind of read the sort of socio-political position of dolphins and orcas in here. Here are the orca killer whales uplifted. And these, I think, have only been uplifted by the Solomani. That is not a thing that the Valani civilizations would have done, since their biotech was a bit behind, quite a bit behind, for in-universe reasons. Here are Orca worlds. They're apart from Suffren, which is the main world that they have population on. There's only a few other worlds that have significant populations. New Challenge in the Glimmerdrift Reaches. Orcana in Gateway. Terra has some. Not noticeable populations of Orca elsewhere. Dress art and architecture. Oddly enough, they have no nudity taboo. The Orca homeworld. Orca evolved on Terra but considers Suffren to be their homeworld. So this is in the Solomani Rim, I believe. No, it is in the Diaspora subsector. Okay, very interesting. Very interesting. Okay, native life form. So we get a bunch of information on Suffren, which is pretty cool. Tech level there is a mature TL15, verging on 16, which is one of the highest in the subsector. Probably one of the highest in the sector. Demographics. Okay, there is some mostly Solomani, small percentage of Villani and other minor race humans. Okay, places and events, animal encounters here. They got some rather mean-looking wildlife on this place. Here are the rules for Orca travelers. Obviously, they are super strong. They have super high endurance, and they are not well accepted in broader society. But one wonders, in the diaspora sector, this is probably imperial society rather than Solomani society. Okay, interesting. We get careers for them. The philosopher elder, uplifted Orca who lead their communities. The spirit singer, and these only have one assignments. Uplifted Orca who oversee the spiritual health of their communities. Here's Orca gear. I'll take these off since they're not providing me any particular use at this time. Um, Same deal with the Dolphins. They've got a technology that's adapted to give them manipulative capabilities. Weapons, these look kind of badass. And these are like weapons harnesses too, which is kind of cool. Vehicular weapons. Here are the BWAPs. That's a shortening of their like true name. They're also known by a variety of derogatory things inside human space because they coexist pretty well with humans. They are little frog. I don't know how little. They're not that little, but they're shorter than humans on average. And they are sort of frog and or lizard people coming from a very humid environment, and they cannot take dry environments at all. They are natural bureaucrats. We have a section on BWAP society here and BWAP food, actually, which actually sounds like it might be interesting. That means I'm hungry. Conservatism. They are a conservative race. Innovation is not something that they're particularly good at or are comfortable with. The military, dress, art, and architecture, and business. Here's a BWAP glossary, which is cool. Language and numbers. Can't wait to read that. I'm not even kidding. I can't wait to read that. Here's BWAP history. And again, these folks were like integrated into the First Imperium and are even better integrated into the Third Imperium. Here's a BWAP timeline, which is about a page or a little more. Here's the BWAP homeworld. This is Maharban in the Lentuli subsector of the Empty Quarter. It's often confused with another world of the same name located in the Lishun sector, which is the desert world, completely devoid of moisture, which they will absolutely hate. They hate that. They need to wear, unless the atmosphere is like remarkably humid, they need to wear special moisturizing garb. Okay, we got a ton of details on that and animal encounters. And once again, the native wildlife looks ferocious. The Reaper Reap, the Parauba, the Swamp Donkey. That's kind of, again, it looks badass. So whoever's doing the art here is, I think we're not selling Swamp Donkey. That thing looks like a badass monster instead. BWAP Traveler, strength -4, endurance -4. They are probably going to have, maybe they don't have their own careers. They may fit well enough into human careers that they didn't need their own careers. Central Supply Catalog stuff. Here's going to be their moisturizing garb. I think the armored kaftan is supposed to be that. There are armored ones too for combat. And here's ceremonial armor, which or powered plate, which sounds like it's the equivalent of battle dress, more or less, or at least combat armor. All right, so they have robots and drones, and they have an interaction bot that's designed to look like a BWAP to ease the interaction between human and BWAP, and similar to the protocol droid. And you can see the very C-3PO posture of the BWAP robot here, which is hilarious. Vehicles, they've got some vehicles, including some like vehicles, including walkers, which we have always been around in Traveler, at least not always, but have been around in Traveler for a long time, but we don't see them as often as we think. Freight carriages, which are the giant heavy treaded tires. A high guard of the BWAP, so BWAP ships. Here's a medium fighter, that's a small craft. FOWEEP class scout. This is 100 tons, sort of hammerhead or dragonfly looking scout. Here's a trader that is a 300-ton trader. Patrol corvette at 500 tons, so fairly big. Fairly big by like player standards anyway. I mean, ships get way bigger than this in the official Traveler universe. Here's a system defense boat at 600 tons. Destroyer at 2,000 tons. A monitor at 5,000 tons. Monitors also may not have jump drives, by the way. And that's pretty big. Here's a light cruiser at 25,000 tons. So it's pretty big. Here's a 150,000 ton battleship, pride of the BWAP colonial fleet, and they've only built one. Permanently stationed at the BWAP homeworld, but occasionally tours other BWAP dominated worlds. Okay, that's big. It's very big. That is kind of the larger end of ship sizes in Traveler. It's not the biggest ship they've ever done. certainly. There are 300,000-ton Imperial battleships, for example, the infamous Tigris class. All right, so we're at now page 298 of 298. So this has been a super quick flip through, not that quick actually, but a flip through of Mongoose Traveler second edition's new book, or new-ish book, Aliens of Uncharted Space Volume 3. Looks good. They can, as I've said elsewhere, I would be delighted if Mongoose were to publish like 15 of these. I'd be totally happy with that. 4 or 5 different alien species. Sounds great in a book this size, especially if they're, more minor races and more minor human races, which to me are very interesting. So hopefully you have found this useful. Thank you for watching. I would like to give a special shout out to the patrons of Ardwulf's Lair, without whose support and encouragement it would be impossible to continue doing this stuff. So thank you, patrons. Please like the video if you found it useful. Please subscribe to the channel for more Traveler and a bunch of other types of content. And I know that I have not been incredibly awesome about getting Traveler stuff out lately, but we're working to change that. So this is, we get another, at least we have something today. So thanks again for watching, and until next time, happy traveling.